welcome, sir.
Hey there, Mark.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. So wait a minute, I thought I get to sit there.
Yeah. No, I'm not wearing pants.
Oh. Well,
just fundies.
So just the fundies.
Just the fundies. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
That's kind of nasty to bring me up like right after that whole beef jerky thing. That was just creepy.
That's not a lot of people know this. Every fireman wears those. It's kind of a Lady Gaga kind of thing.
Well, I don't think council will see us running anything by them for budget requests for fundies anytime soon. So.
Yeah, that was wrong. And
I've got to tell you, I'm really excited to be here. When I told people that I was going to be involved here with Mesa Morning Live, I was really excited about it. And the big thing that came across was, well, wait a minute, are you replacing Mark Cordes as the host? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, with all this timing here with Jay Leno leaving and with Jimmy Fallon coming in, I'm thinking, man, this is huge. That's like this would be the biggest thing over that. So, but I just want to let everybody know, no, I'm not replacing Mark. So.
Really?
Right. So I don't know if you had heard that or not yet. So. No,
that's awesome. Well, this is kind of weird because somehow I got to be the guest of the month, and so we said, well, somebody should interview you, and we said, who could do that better than Forrest, and we couldn't come up with anybody.
Oh, I'm honored to be here, and I tell you, and that's one of the things too, is a lot of people probably may know this, but one of the things is that you're somewhat of a local icon and a local legend when it comes to comedy. Did a little research on you and found that there's some. I like that. And so it was just really interesting to see the contribution you made just to the local comedy scene, and in some cases just outside the Valley.
Oh, cool.
So
well,
appreciate you being here and doing this for all of us as well.
Oh, it's a blast. You know what? Thanks. I always try and kind of work my schedule where I can be here the second Friday of every month to do this because it's so much fun. But to be real honest with you, if a bigger gig comes up, I take it.
I've noticed that from some of the ones you were booking.
But no, it is a blast. And you know what? I love doing this because I think so many times, I used to be in the real world before I started telling jokes.
Right.
And I used to work for in the real estate business, and I used to sit at these big meetings, and I used to go, oh my gosh, these are so boring. If somebody could figure out a way to kind of spice them up a little bit, they'd be onto something. And then when I started telling jokes, I thought, hey, I should do that. So that's, I think that's how the Chamber stumbled on me a number of years ago. I entertained at the big awards dinner, and then they said, do you want to do it more often? And that's how this whole thing got started. So that's who you have to blame.
Well, let's get personal.
Uh-oh.
Because, see, everybody comes up here and we get to get it picked apart. We have to, I mean, just shy of being on Oprah's Couch, I guess. This is what we have this version of. So, but tell us, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, actually a little suburb called Independence, which I've said this before, which is the home of Harry Truman. Very good class. And it's kind of funny. I used to see Harry when I was in junior high. No, it's not even a joke. When I was in junior high, Harry Truman used to, his Truman home was next to my junior high school, and every day he would walk. This is such a lifetime ago because now they can't do this, but he would walk with his Secret Service agent, one guy about 6 steps behind him, and Harry was always in a suit, and he would just strut around the block, and I just thought that was normal. I thought everybody had a former president walking by their junior high. And he was a cool guy. And then I went to Truman High School, which was awkward because there were signs everywhere, you know, like the bus stops here. And that's why I never tell that joke. But yeah, I grew up in Missouri. I went to the University of Missouri and came out here a couple years later to visit one winter, and it was a day like this, and I thought, what am I doing back there shoveling snow? Went back and decided to move out here. Moved out. My ex-wife, at the time she was my wife. That would have been weird to move with your ex-wife. We moved out here. We had no jobs, no place. We loaded up the Mayflower moving van, and they said, where do we drop this off? And we said, we don't even have a place. When you get to Arizona, call us, and we'll tell you where to go. And it was just a leap of faith, and I look back and go, God, I was an idiot, but it was the smartest thing we ever did. I mean, look where we live.
Oh, yeah. You know, and that's one of the interesting things, too. So Harry Truman High School So I think you're probably the third famous person, maybe fourth famous person out of that school. Let's see, Dave Haas, 65 Tigers, sound familiar?
What? I have no idea who that is.
Well, I actually went to your school.
Really?
Dave Haas, yes. Played for the 65 Tigers, just so you know. And also another one, Arliss Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Arliss
He's a buddy of mine.
Okay.
Now, how'd you find that out?
Private Cowboy from Full Metal Jacket, if you guys don't know. See, what I'm doing is laying down the list of the famous people that came out of Harry Truman High School.
Arliss was known as Les Howard when I knew him. He was my neighbor, and he's married to Deborah Winger, and he's been in a million movies. You'd know him if you saw him. He's in, what's the new one he's in? He's on that TV show, True Blood? Is that? Okay. He's in True Blood. He's the shaved head guy. Do you know who I'm talking about? And he was a year ahead of me in school. He's married to Deborah Winger, and I'm doing Mesa Morning Live.
See, I knew there was something there, but I figured if I just lobbed it up right here, he would take it on.
That's awesome.
Now, there's the other creepy part about Independence, Missouri, you know, just in that you're not sharing with the crowd here, too, okay? Because we know that's the beginning of
There's a lot of creepy parts.
Because I asked you about, you know, okay, you told us why you left,
right.
But we also know of another group that left Independence, Missouri at one point.
Okay.
Sound familiar? Okay. Yeah, the Donner Party actually passed through. Believe it or not, that actually was the first leg of their trip out west. So I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Right.
I'll check my family tree.
So yeah, we were just looking at some of the comparisons, and I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see. Mark came here via Independence, and the Donner Party did. So there was something there, too. Everybody's dying to get out, I guess.
We were both asked to leave.
Right. Okay. So now some of the other things, though, is, you know, looking at your history, that was one of the things I just thought was interesting, watching you on Mesa Morning Live.
This is weird. I feel like I'm dead. And they're talking about
somewhat of a eulogy.
Yeah.
Right? So what got you into comedy? I mean, you had described somewhat of a little bit here, but how did you get started?
You know, it's the craziest thing. I was selling real estate, and by the way, this is what happens when you don't sell enough. But I was working for a home builder. My wife and I got married way too young. I graduated May 18th. We got married May 27th. You know, stupid. What was I thinking? What was she thinking? And we got married too early, divorced. I was going through the divorce. I was bummed out. I went out to have some beers with my buddies one night after work, and we walked into a little bar in Paradise Valley, and at 9 o'clock the lights went down and they put a little makeshift stage up, and some guys got up and told jokes, and my buddies said, "You should try that," and I thought, yeah, right, and they called the owner over, and he said, "Yeah, I'll come back next week," and so I did, because I didn't want to back out. And I did 5 minutes, and when it was over, he said, "You want to come back next week?" And I said, "Yeah, was I good?" And he said, "No, you sucked. But you sucked less than anybody I've ever seen on their first time." And somehow that was a positive. I sucked the least. And by the way, one of the other guys that was good at the time was David Spade, and that's the first night I met David, and we're good friends to this day. Of course, he moved on to great things, but I just kind of got bit by the bug and started telling jokes, continued to sell real estate and do things on the side, tell jokes. And then one day I was sitting in my real estate office and I got a phone call from a guy that owned a comedy club in Honolulu. And he said, "Hey, I've heard about you." George Lopez had told him about me, and he said, "You should come out here for a couple of weeks." And I said, "I can't, I got a real job." And he said, "Well, I'll pay you, think about it, I pay you $1,000 per week. Your airline, your hotel, all the food, all the booze, anything you want to do is covered." And I said, "I can't," and I hung up, and I thought, what am I doing? I don't want to be 80 years old someday at Oakwood. See that little plug? Wondering, gosh, I wonder what would have happened if I would have tried that. So I called the guy back and said, "I'm going to give my notice, I'm coming," and I quit my job, and it was, you know, just a total leap of faith. I even let my real estate license lapse. I said, I don't want to have that parachute. I don't want to be able to go, well, if this doesn't work out, I just severed all ties. The first 2 years were brutal. But I just worked and hustled and wrote a bunch of jokes and made a lot of good friends. And 26 years later, I'm traveling around the world telling jokes. I've been able to do things and meet things. And I never would have met you without doing this.
Right.
So there's the downside too. Yeah.
Wait, no,
Totally kidding. No, it's been, you know what, it's the greatest thing ever. And the cool thing is, I think you have to be an optimist in life. And I think that the best stuff is still to come. You know, that's the way people always go, you know, it's funny, I'll do some events sometimes and people come up to me afterwards and say, do you think you're ever going to make it really big? And I go, look what I'm doing for a living. I'm telling jokes, I'm trying to make people laugh and brightening their day a little bit. I think I already made it. Absolutely. So it's fun.
You know what's also funny too is there was a article that came out from eHarmony that said they gave a list of the 15 top reasons to date a comedian.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty creepy, but I don't, you know, there's some technical things where we're not able to show that list, but a lot of us came down to some basic things, though, which I thought was pretty interesting that I think from some of the obvious of what people think that a comedian's constantly having to be on stage, and so I don't know if that's something that you deal with.
Oh, yeah, I mean, people come up to you, you know, I'll bump into somebody at the airport, and they'll go, tell us a joke. I'm like, you know, the guy's an accountant, I'll go, balance my checkbook, you know. I hate people that are on all the time, so I try and, I'm really funny at night. In the morning, not so much.
So you're more of a night person.
I'm a night person.
You know, and that was another thing I noticed too, and we've seen this, is that concept of the corporate comedian. I just think that's a pretty interesting concept right there. Because I think a lot of time when we think corporate comedian, it's that guy that kind of hangs around the coffee machine and he's got just the horrible jokes and you're trying to avoid getting coffee in the morning. So what is a corporate comedian?
Well, you know what it is? I truly believe in the power of laughter. And if you don't believe that, let's see if I can convince you otherwise. If you look at the Super Bowl, you know, companies pay millions of dollars for 30-second ads and 99% of them are trying to be funny, because that's what keeps people's attention. So I have a lot of clients, and I mean huge, big clients, you know, Microsoft, Intel, you know, and some of the people that are here, you know, that understand that concept, and they bring me on board. I just did an event last week for our host, Crescent Crown Distributing, where they said, hey, we need to pizzazz our annual sales meeting up a little bit. Let's make it fun. And we did kind of a version of this. I think you keep people engaged more if they're thinking, hey, I better pay attention, something funny might be coming. And so I do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I also integrate things about their industry, and I always look forward to it for Oakwood next month. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do a similar kind of format. But yeah, I mean, and sometimes companies bring me in for like a 3 or 4 day conference where I do all their hosting duties, take care of all that. The last night I hand out awards, make it fun, kind of like Billy Crystal at the Oscars, do some stand-up. I let the client tell me what they want to accomplish, and I do what I can. Because most CEOs of companies are really brilliant at what they do, but they don't know how to engage and entertain a group for a long time. So I take that burden off their hand, I do the heavy lifting, and it's kind of a win-win.
You know, Jerry Seinfeld once said that comedy is serious business. And so seeing some of your stand-up and seeing what you're doing in the corporate comedy side, where do you see comedy going? Or do you see that it's changed throughout the years?
Oh yeah, I think it gets, you know, you think back, my parents used to let me watch Johnny Carson at night if there was gonna be a comedian on. At the time I didn't even, you know, it's weird to look back and think now that's what I'm doing. But it used to be all squeaky clean. Now with the advent of cable and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't have to be. I think it's just turned coarser, and to me it's a crutch. And so I try and be more clever and clean, and I think it's paid big dividends. It's enabled me to do things that a lot of guys that are really funny can't. If you say, hey, you got to get up and talk to a group for an hour and you can't be dirty, they would just say, I can't do it. And for me, I'm saying, bring it on, it's fun. So it's fun for me, but now what I'm doing, and I appreciate the lead in here, and if you look on your tables, I'm doing a one-man show I've written called The Spouse Whisperer, and it's a blast. I know a lot of people here have seen it, Sally and a lot of the folks have seen it, and I've got it debuting next week at the Phoenix Theater for a 2-week run. It's 90 minutes of me talking about relationships and why they work or why they don't, or how to make yours better, or how to get out of a bad one, or if you're gonna get married, what to look for, and it's just kind of a differences between men and women, and it's a real fun. It's the most fun project I've ever worked on. It's a blast. Oh, there's the tour bus. I don't know if you saw it out front. It's full of beer from Crescent Crown. And it's great. Sean Berry, my good friend, has been instrumental in helping me with this. And I really think, you know, it's funny, I finally have some management behind me that says, Mark, trust us, within a couple of years, we're going to have this show on Broadway. And I say, it's not a big deal. I'm on Broadway the second Friday of every month. You know, yeah. I think they're talking about a different one. But this has been a lot of fun, and I think if you get a chance, Robin Williams, of course I used his quote because he saw me New Year's Eve up in San Francisco, and he thought it was funny. And you know what? When Robin Williams tells you you're funny, it's kind of like Michael Jordan tell you you've got a good jump shot, you know? So I'm hoping that, that this is kind of the, here's what I think. I think we're all on our own schedule. You know, a lot of people feel like if they haven't made it big by the age of 30, it's not gonna happen. You know what? If it's 60 for me, I'll be fine with that too, you know? If you think back of, I'm friends with Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond, you know? And Brad did incredibly well off that show, as obviously Ray Romano did too, but look at Peter Boyle, you know, the guy that played the dad. You know, he was, I think, in his 70s when he passed a couple of years ago, but you know, if a role like that came along, I'd probably miss Mesa Morning Live to do it.
You know, okay, so what I want you to do is go on Facebook, right, and look yourself up. All right. Oh, yeah, because this is the funniest part right there. We find that if you were just coming in from out of town, you said, well, who is Mark Cordes? The interesting thing is you could either meet the several, I'd probably say there was at least 36 Marcus Cordes in Germany, yeah. And one of which is involved in the auto industry. There's several Mark Cordeses in Texas.
Yep.
And one of the interesting things, a lot in the Midwest, in Illinois and the such. So I was sitting here thinking, okay, there's these social media doppelgangers of Mark Cordes floating around out there. So I always thought, well, worst case, what you could do is you could always just change your profile and we could still have all these different versions if things don't work out on the comedy side for you here.
I like that. Well, you know, what's funny, I was in Chicago once. I was talking to Evan from the Cubs earlier. I was at the Improv in Chicago, and this guy came up to me and said, I was in a fraternity with a guy named Mark Cordes from Illinois. And I said, oh, cool. And he goes, yeah, I used to date Cindy Crawford. So I'm thinking, I can't wait. Someday I'd love to walk up to Cindy Crawford and say, remember me? We dated. Pretty sure she'd not believe that. But now, you know what? This is the coolest thing about my job is every day is different, and it's a lot of fun to bring the gift of laughter to people, and especially with couples, and to do a cheap, shameless plug for my show. I wish I knew who to attribute this quote to, but it was unknown. But I think it's so true. It said, people fall in love by smiling at each other, but they stay in love by laughing with each other. It's kind of cool, and it's true. Are you married, Forrest?
Yes, I am.
I bet you, because you're a funny guy, I bet you and your wife have some good laughs, and it's very therapeutic.
I think I'm more of the source. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm
You're the source.
Yeah, right.
Nothing wrong with
Apparently,
that.
I too am funny at night.
Well, it's like George Allen and Gracie Burns. It was a straight man. But no, it's a lot of fun, and I love to watch when couples come to see the show, and then I make fun of women, I make fun of men, but the whole positive spin on it at the end is, you know what, life's a crazy game. If you find that person that you can hang on to and enjoy the ride, you know, do so. And I get a lot of couples that come up and say, thanks, I thought it was just him that did whatever. Thanks for telling me it was, all you guys are idiots. And vice versa. So it's a lot of fun, and yeah, if you've seen the show, thank you for supporting it. I know a lot of people have popped in. It's always evolving. One of the things I do is I take questions from the audience, and that's a trip because every show's different because every audience is different, and it's pretty hilarious, the questions that people have.
Well, one thing they don't do in eulogies is ask you about your future, because at that point, there's no future. But I do want to know what, and I'm sure everybody wants to know, what are your future goals when it comes to what you're doing in your career?
You know, I have so many friends of mine that can't wait till they retire. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do, play golf and go see movies? I do that already, you know? I want to just be doing this until I just can't do it anymore. I foresee being able to do the Spouse Whisper for as long as I want to. and then I'll pass the torch on to a younger spouse whisperer. And I would eventually love to kind of franchise that whole thing. I'd love to have a Hispanic spouse whisperer, a gay spouse whisperer, and truly license the brand, and that's kind of my goal. But I try not to get caught up in what might happen, because I think if you look too far ahead, you forget where you are right now. And you gotta have fun where you are. And I know right now we're 5 minutes over.
Okay, well, hey, does anybody have any questions of Mark? Okay.
Well, you know, here's the cool thing.
That we can put him in the hot seat right now?
These guys know me well enough, hopefully. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate.
But I would just want them doing a public forum that way.
Yeah, no.
It's recorded. You know, we do have some door prizes as well.
We do have some
And I did want to give a quick shout out to Mesa leadership for Operation Porter Park. So these guys have a table here. It's good to see you all, and several alumni of the program as well. So nice to see you.
You know what's cool? I always forget to open this, but this is a little laugh box. If you listen to this, whoop. Wait. And the reason it didn't make noise is I brought you some candy hearts for us.
Thank you very much.
That's 2 for us
look
from
at that.
Mark.
How about that? It's like we're back in the 6th grade again. This is great.
That's where it ends. You're not getting in my fundies with me.
Okay.